10-Minute Jazz Lesson Podcast, episode 118. Hey everybody, welcome back to episode 118 of the 10-Minute Jazz Lesson Podcast. Hope you had an awesome week. Thanks so much for tuning in once again. Really appreciate all of our listeners that come back week after week. So today is going to be a part 2 on playing the blues in 4 keys, and we're going to talk about actually improvising over these 4 keys this week instead of just playing a melody. Hopefully you all found that last episode useful and you're starting to be able to hear the different keys. But before we get into the episode, as always, a little bit of housekeeping. If you would like to get the PDF for this episode and all 118 episodes of the show, please head over to our website, 10minutejazzlesson.com, and click on one of the Patreon links. If you choose to support us, starting at only $3 a month, you get access to all of the PDFs, and now we are starting to do these play-alongs as well, which a lot of people have found really, really helpful. So if you want to jump on board, help the podcast to keep coming at you every single week, and get your hands on a whole bunch of really awesome stuff, go on over to Patreon and sign up to contribute a couple of bucks a month to us. We really appreciate that. Let's give a big shout out to everybody who's chosen to join us this week. Thank you to Kai, Michael, Paul, Kathleen, and Mike. Thank you guys so much for choosing to spend your hard-earned money on the podcast and helping to keep us going. All right, so let's jump into this week's episode. So last week I gave you a little melody that I wrote, and we talked about playing the blues in 4 keys in minor thirds, meaning that each chorus we're going to switch keys, and we're going to do so working on a minor third basis so that you actually get 4 keys before you come back around to the key that you started in. So hopefully you all found success with learning that melody in those 4 keys. Tried to make it a pretty repetitive, sort of easy melody to learn. But I know for a lot of you out there, just as it was for me when I first started doing this, it's a real challenge to actually think about things on the fly in different keys, especially doing it every 12 measures. That's a lot to think about. So if you're struggling with that stuff, don't worry about it. Just keep going with last week's episode before you get into the stuff that I'm going to show you this week. So this week, we are going to go into improvising in those 4 keys. Now, this is a lot harder, right? Because now we're actually tasked with coming up with our own material and quickly what we call tonicizing a new key, meaning that we need to draw the ear, we need to play something that's going to tell the listener, hey, we're going into a new key and we are no longer in the one that we just came from. And this is a difficult thing because it's the minor third movement from one chorus to another is not the easiest thing to wrap our heads around. And again, hopefully last week got that into your ears a little bit, what it sounds like to actually go into a different key, a minor third up from the one that you were in. Okay, so how do we do this when we're actually soloing? My big thing is that at least at first, you should plan something out to play in the last measure of the key that you're currently in that goes into the first measure of what key you're going to be in. And I think this is a great way to get started because then we can train our ears and kind of train our brains to think about that transitioning of key. And then once we're used to it, we don't really have to play something that's pre-planned anymore. We could just kind of go for it once we understand the concepts behind changing keys so rapidly. So what I've done this week on your PDF is I've actually written out the chord changes in the 4 keys starting in C. So we're doing 1 chorus in C, 1 chorus in E flat, next chorus in G flat, and the next chorus in A, and then we're back around to C. So I've written out all the chord changes. I've included slashes for you, except for the last bar of the form and the first bar of the next form. What I've done is I've actually written something out for you. So in the last bar, a simple little 2-5 that just goes, 1 to 3 over the minor chord, and then starts on the third of the 5 chord and just comes down the scale. But then what that leads into is simply, and this is a really, really good concept to carry over into your playing when you actually just start improvising over this stuff, simply arpeggiating the first chord of the next key very, very, very clearly to let your listener know and let your own ears know, hey, we are in a new key and this is the new key that we're in. So it's trying to get your ears to recognize that new key as rapidly as possible by playing something really, really simple and something that very clearly outlines the chord that we're going to in the next key. Now, if you want to ratchet up the difficulty of this, and this is what I'm going to do when I play the example for you this week, is do it a cappella, right? No play along whatsoever. Of course, this is not something that you have to do, and if you're still pretty shaky on this stuff, definitely do it with a play along, because the play along is really going to help you to hear what new key you're in. But if you want to go on to kind of the next level and really test yourself by doing it a cappella, you have nothing to fall back on, and it's all on you to really make sure that you are playing and being as clear as possible in the brand new key that we're going to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play these 4 keys of the blues for you. And I'm going to do it a cappella. At the end of every chorus, I'm going to play the little lick that I've written for you. And I want you to think about, when you're listening to me play this, whether it does in fact help us hear the new key before I go off and start improvising in that key, a minor third up. All right? So here we go. I'm going to play all 4 keys. This is going to be a little bit of a long example because I'm playing it in 4 keys. So that is, 48 measures. But see if you can hear my root movement and see if you can hear me going through the progression of playing the blues in all these 4 keys, a minor third apart from each other. And have the PDF in front of you so you can actually follow along visually and you can actually see those lines that I've written out in the different keys for you. All right, here's the example for this week. So hopefully you can hear all the different keys pretty rapidly. I think that first measure really, really quickly acclimates your ear to the brand new key. And that's really what we're going for here. We want to convey that we're playing in a new key as quickly as we possibly can when we're doing an exercise like this. And you can hear I'm not playing anything that's super complicated. When I'm playing a cappella, I'm really just trying to be as accurate as possible and really outline the changes. Because when you don't have a rhythm section doing that for you, you have to be very, very clear in your playing. So we're not trying to reinvent the wheel when we're working on this. What we're really trying to do is, okay, can I play in these 4 keys? And if I can't, I've got some work to do, right? And then obviously doing them in rapid succession with no break in between the key. One of the big challenges is just being able to, like I said, tonicize the new key as quickly as possible. So I imagine that there might be some questions on this particular episode, so feel free to reach out, 10minutejazzlesson@gmail.com. Ask me any questions that you might have. Again, if you're not ready for this, don't worry about it. Just simply file this podcast away as things to work on a little bit down the road. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I was, not ready to work on this for a long, long, long time. And then I finally felt like, okay, I have a good enough grasp on really what to do to be able to start to crack the books on something like this. So again, just don't feel bad if you're not ready to start this stuff. Do it at a later date. Okay? All right. Make sure you go and check out our website. If you want the PDFs to this is going to be a really, really valuable one to have the PDF for. So make sure you go over to our website, 10minutejazzlesson.com, head over to Patreon, and we really, really, really appreciate everybody out there who has chosen to support the podcast. Big shout out to all of you. Thank you again. All right, we'll see you next week with more episodes. Hope you're having a great summer so far, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.